So let's learn about movement. Movement is located on each block on the bottom right. Okay, the number designates how many hexes it can move. The symbol designates any special privileges it may have. Now, on the glider, it has a 2, so that means it can move 2 hexes, 1, 2, or it can move 1, 2. The half hexes are, by the way, playable. All right, now the symbol here means that this unit can move through forests without stopping. Now, forests, deserts, and swamps, they all stop your average unit from moving in there. Once they get into that, they got to stop no matter what their number is. But a glider, let's say it was started right here, bam, it can just go right through it without a problem. It is an elf after all, right? Now, aquatic creatures are the only ones that can move through the water, and flying creatures can, of course, fly over the water. So one question you might have is, how is this glider going to get to all the action on this island? It seems pretty landlocked, and it is. But we'll get to that answer in a little bit. And this ranger has the same problem with this little island, right? But so what we're going to do is we'll figure that out in a second. But to do so, we have to bust up the town of Baven from all skeletons, right? So we got the pixie and the wizard here, which have wings, which means they can fly. And so they're going to come on over to Baven. Now, it seems simple enough that you just go ahead and just move them because they have a movement of 2. It's only 1 hex away. They can easily get in there, right? Well, it's a little bit more complicated than that, and that deals with hexes, hex limits, and hex side limits. So let's cover that. Now, what I'm about to teach you is a very unique, challenging, and rewarding part of the game. That's hex limits and hex side limits, all right? So let's just go over it. Now, hex limits are how many of your blocks could be in any hex depending on the terrain at any one time. It doesn't matter if you're in combat. It doesn't matter how many units the opponent has in there or not. Basically, it's how many of your units are in there. And first you got to figure out what kind of hex you're in, okay? Now, Baven, this one looks like there's a lot of water. There's even a little desert, and there's clear. So how do you know what it is? Well, it's in the middle. Whatever's predominantly in the middle is what it is. This is a clear hex. So what we do is we go over here and we see clear hexes can hold 4 blocks at one time. Okay, simple enough. I got 2 pixies and a Wakana, and it means blocks, not how much strength they have. It could have a 1 strength, it could have a 4 strength. Does not matter. It means blocks. All right, so we can easily be in there, but there's something else to consider. There's more logistics here, and that is hex side limits. And now hex side limits only matter in combat. If this skeleton wasn't here, this would be an over and done thing. Just move them on in. Not a big deal at all, as long as you don't go over the hex limit. All right, but here in combat, we got to worry about hex side limits because the forces are going to be intercepted and such. So what a hex side limit is, and this is no longer necessarily a clear hex side because the hex sides are over here, of course, on the sides of the hex. All right, right here, this hex side is desert. This hex side is a bridge. This hex side and this hex side and this hex side and this hex side, because the majority and in the middle, is C. All right, so this is going to be a C hex that we want to move in through. So in that case, the C hex side limit is 2. So only 2 of my units can fly over. So that means the pixie, let's say the pixies move there, and the Wakana, my wizard, how's she going to get on over? Well, it's simple enough. She has a movement of 2. She'll just go over through the other C hex. So that's how you move in through hexes and hex sides. It's a logistical challenge that's very rewarding. So now let's go with our movement over here with the undead, because now everybody's moved here. Like I said, I'm going to go through how these 2 are going to come over in another turn. So now that it's these guys' turn, for the artificial intelligence, they only move if they can reach an elf, whether they're in combat or not. Okay, so this zombie can go through a swamp, but it can't go through the desert easy. All right, so basically it has to stop at a desert, so it can't make it on over. All right, if it had like this, like it can go that oasis symbol next to its movement, it can go through, but it's not. It's a zombie, and it's got that it can only go through the swamp. Now this zombie over here has a movement of 2, and it can't reach it. Okay, it can't go through the water, obviously, but it can't reach it. Except there's a complete road here. Now, roads add 1 to your movement as long as you use the road completely on your turn. Not moving and get off of it. You start on the road, you end on the road. And you get to ignore all of the terrain obstacles in the way. So 1, 2. Now this zombie can get into the action. Okay, it's gonna now, and we get into combat turns. Now that everybody's moved, they can get there, and we'll get into combat right now.